All right, so we're back. Had to take a quick break because I had to go do some stuff. Wait, y'all know what happened. Never mind. All right, back to it. Claus had taken over the workshop. He had the North Pole in his possession. Mrs. Claus was locked away. The reindeer was slain. Twinkle, the traitorous lout, was working the elves to the bone. It was the darkest time in Christmas history, and it was about to get darker. With only hours until Christmas, Claus and his minions didn't have long to ruin the holidays, but they didn't need much time. Claus's first stage in Operation Black Christmas was production dangerous zone. Long gone were the days of dollies and trains. Claus had his elves rebuild the machines used to create toys, so they now produced only weapons of war. An army of elves isn't enough for him. He wanted more, bigger, meaner soldiers. He wanted to turn the world's children to his side. After all, everybody still thought Santa was in charge. News of Nick's imprisonment hadn't spread beyond the workshop, and that happened decades ago. The people of Earth were oblivious to Claus' regime and his evil intent. Claus was counting on them to do as Santa told them. If Santa gave them guns and knives and nuclear warheads to play with, who would turn it down? Good little boy. I don't think there's a wrong one. Anyone who was saying? Well, yes, maybe. Look, anyway. Okay, so, see, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a right or wrong there for that one. And so the elves went about making their weapons and deadly toys, and into Claus' sack they went. As the hour of judgment loomed, the spirit around... I did start the timer. The spirit around the workshop was dire. No one dared speak up to oppose their taskmaster Twinkle or his boss, the vile Claus. Come midnight, Claus had climbed into his sleigh and went about his annual route. His robo-deer braying in the cold winter's night, Claus set an arsenal into the stockings and under the decorated trees of every household. Not everyone got presents, though. There were those Claus had put on the naughty list. Those people got something much worse. Yes? Okay. Even worse. There's a question mark at the end of that, man. Even worse, those poor souls unfortunate enough to be deemed naughty by Claus were not simply denied presents or subjected to lashings. No! Claus had something much worse planned for them. On Christmas morning, those who had not made the nice list were seized by mechanical nutcrackers and whisked away to the workshops. They were to become the subject of Claus' grand experiment. He needed those of a naughty disposition to watch soap operas, turn into soldiers. As it turns out, Mrs. Claus wasn't simply locked in a prison on that ice floe. She was being forced by Claus and his crew to create, well, the only word for them is abominations. She was making gingerbread men, not just ordinary gingerbread men made of sugar and flour. These were cookie soldiers bent on world domination, driven by an insatiable hunger for war. But the gingerbread men experiment was failing. They were lacking that special ingredient. Human brains. I got through that a lot faster than I did in the last episode. Christmas had come, and with it... Oh, I had it. Christmas had come, and with it, the reckoning of Claus. The good were given weapons. The not so good were kidnapped by sentient nutcrackers to be turned into malicious gingerbread men. Moms and dads around the globe attempted to take the guns and knives and grenade launchers from their children, but were met by meltdowns, temper tantrums, and an occasional rude gesture. How could mommy and daddy hate Santa? Why would they take his gifts away from them? Without an answer, the parents had no choice but to relent. But this was only the first phase in Claus's plan. The second was enacted on New Year's Eve 2013, a day which will live in infamy. A fleet of sleighs large enough to block out the sun descended from the northern tip of the earth like a black cloud. No one knew it was coming. No one was prepared. Gingerbread men, crazed nutcrackers, elven turncoats morphed into giants by Claus's powers, and a stampeding horde of robo-deer stormed across the land. Scared, defenseless, and more than a little confused, the people of Earth holed up in their homes, unsure of what to do. Little were they prepared for what happened next. For Claus, his last punch in the sack was even more nefarious, more wicked. Okay, again. Claus, his master stroke was... You know what, fuck it. Krampus has nothing to do with this. An army of children. What? What no one knew was that these toys that Claus had given the young people of Earth on Christmas morning, the bayonets and flamethrowers and mine launchers emitting a high-pitched noise only perceivable by children that turned them into mindless zombies when triggered by Claus. By pressing a button on the head sleigh, Claus activated his army. Claus activated his army. The kids picked up their weapons and took their parents hostage. The grown-ups were forced into large, gaudily wrapped packages, tossed in a large pack, and hauled away into the workshop. The Nutcracker set about destroying all that was left behind, smashing cars and bikes, setting homes aflame. With the world burning and its citizens captured, Claus set about on the next phase of his plan. But what Claus didn't count on was the 3rd Street Saints, bitch. Tinsel, the elf who had thwarted Claus' forces and escaped the workshop, had made it to civilization just in time to tell a small ragtag group of regular people what Claus, Twinkle, and the rest of their minions had been plotting. Trekking southward from the pole was no mean feat, but Tinsel knew he must get the message out. He had to let the people of Earth know what was coming, and he knew, more than anything, that the best people to tell were the 3rd Street Saints, the United Nations. You know what? Fuck it. We'll go with NASA. Tinsel thought NASA was a brand of hot chocolate, actually. The United Nations. Following the worst Christmas ever, the United Nations had temporarily disbanded. Fair enough. That's right! The Saints! Well, actually, just one saint. Me! Alright. A big fan of my reality dating show, I Want to Sleep with Shaundi, Tinsel was fixated on finding me, both to get an autograph and to help save the world. Not only had Tinsel managed to get away, he brought something with him, a small pouch of Christmas magic. He didn't have enough just to wish Claus away. He didn't have enough just to wish Claus away, but he did have enough so that if any... Oh, fuck. Give me a second. But he did have enough so that if enough people believed really hard, the magic dust might be able to free the people Claus had brainwashed. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. Of course, the first thing I did was... No, I did not sleep with Tinsel. Okay, she yelled at me. No, I didn't smoke a bulb. Okay, at this point, y'all had got run out of ideas. Hey, assemble the crew. Hey, I knew I could handle things on my own, but it never helps to have But it never helps to have backup. I think that was supposed to be hurt. It never hurts to have backup. It never helps to have... Okay, anyway, that might be... I don't know. This series is weird. The first one I called was Johnny. First things first. I wanted more than an elf watching my back. Kinsey was next. She then insisted on calling Keith David, but he was last seen on location playing himself in his own life story and nobody had his number. Bing King had taken the money he'd made with that weird sci-fi book he wrote, and was on some remote island somewhere. I suggested Matt Miller, but Kinsey shut it down. Apparently, she'd had enough of sharing the spotlight with him. Every second we weren't taking action was another moment Claus was ruining the planet. I made the call to only bring one more person. The boss, obviously, because we had to play the fucking game. Of course, they spent the first 20 minutes laughing in my face. They didn't even believe in Santa. They figured Claus was just some crazy alien who followed us, gave kids a bunch of guns, and was now unleashing its armada at us. Oddly enough, is actually a more plausible explanation, because that's what the fuck happened. They were down for helping. Anytime shooting bad guys is part of the plan, the boss wants to be involved. But no way were they buying into Christmas magic or elves or any of that. I like to think I like to think they changed their minds once they. They didn't. I don't think. No, they didn't. Of course not. Have you met the boss? Look, I respect the hell out of them, and I'm loyal as a dog. But to them, but open-minded they are not. Once they got some idea in their head, they just. I'm going off point. Anyway, we had our crew, and you know what? It felt good. Me, Kenzie, the boss, Johnny, lean and mean. Oh, and Tinsel, lean and mean and really short. I mean, seriously short. He came up to my kneecap. I wasn't even going to think about wearing a skirt around this guy. Sorry, going off track again. We had the crew. We had some magic dust. We had an objective. Take out claws. How were we actually going to do that? Well... Yep. I was guessing again. Alright, so that's... What? That's 3, 4, and 5. So probably 6, 7, and 8 will be knocked out in the next one. I'm not gonna read the what are they called? Like the letters to Santa. And there's an entire other text adventure, like based I think on the normal game. And I've never done that, so I'll probably do that in my free time. So until tomorrow, or until like a few seconds from now when you click the next video, which, hey, if you're doing that, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment. You can say anything you want to. You can say fart or, flibber sticky. Peace. I'm out of here.